Have you ever felt like you're trapped in a nightmare that never ends, even years after the danger has passed? Like there's a voice inside telling you you're not safe, you're not enough, you'll never be free? If this resonates with you, you're not alone. And what you're experiencing might not be regular PTSD. It could be something deeper, more complex, more misunderstood. It's called complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or C-PTSD. And today we're going to pull back the curtain on this invisible prison that millions of people live in every single day. This isn't just another psychology video. This is about understanding why you feel the way you feel. Why healing seems impossible. Why you can't just get over it. By the end of this video, you'll understand the crucial differences between PTSD and C-PTSD, recognize symptoms you didn't even know how to name, and discover that there is a path forward. So take a deep breath. You're in the right place. Let's start with a truth bomb that might shake you. When most people think of trauma, they think of soldiers coming back from war, survivors of car accidents, or victims of natural disasters. One terrible event that changes everything. That's PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's real, it's valid, it's devastating. But what happens when the trauma isn't one event? What happens when the danger never stops? When you grow up in it, live in it, breathe it for years? That's where complex PTSD enters the picture. This isn't about one earthquake that destroys your foundation. This is about living in a war zone for so long that you forget what peace feels like. C-PTSD develops from prolonged, repeated trauma. We're talking about childhood abuse that spans years. Domestic violence that becomes your normal. Being trapped in a cult, a trafficking situation, or a severely toxic environment where escape feels impossible. The trauma becomes your reality. Your brain doesn't just respond to one threat. It rewires itself to survive constant danger. Here's what makes C-PTSD so insidious. Your nervous system gets stuck in survival mode. It's like having a car alarm that never turns off. Every interaction feels like a potential threat. Every criticism feels like an attack. Every moment of peace feels like the calm before the storm. And the worst part? You start believing this is just who you are. Anxious, broken, too much, not enough. But here's the truth that might change everything for you. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's trying to protect you from a danger that, in its perception, never went away. Let me paint you a picture of what C-PTSD actually looks like in real life, because this is where most people finally see themselves. Imagine waking up every morning with a weight on your chest. Not sadness exactly. More like dread. Like something bad is about to happen, but you can't name it. You go through your day wearing a mask. To the outside world you might look fine. Functional even. You have a job, maybe a relationship, maybe kids. But inside you're running on fumes. Here's where it gets real. You have moments where you completely disconnect from your body. You're in a conversation, but you're not really there. You're floating somewhere above yourself, watching your life happen to someone else. That's dissociation. It's your brain's emergency exit when emotions become too overwhelming. And for people with C-PTSD, it can happen multiple times a day without you even realizing it. Then there's the shame. Not guilt over something you did. Shame about who you are at your core. A deep, toxic belief that you're fundamentally flawed. Damaged goods. This shame isn't logical. You can't think your way out of it because it lives in your body, in your nervous system. It was programmed into you during those years when you needed safety but got danger instead. When you needed love but got betrayal. Your relationships are a battlefield. You want connection desperately, but intimacy terrifies you. You push people away before they can leave you. Or you cling so tightly you suffocate them. Trust? That's a foreign language. Even with people who've never hurt you, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because in your experience it always does. And when conflict arises, you don't just get upset. You get triggered. Your body floods with adrenaline. Your heart races. You might shut down completely or explode with rage that seems disproportionate to the situation. But here's what people don't understand. You're not overreacting to what just happened. You're reacting to every time this pattern happened before. The emotional flashbacks are brutal. Unlike regular flashbacks where you relive a specific event, emotional flashbacks dump you back into the feelings of your trauma without the context. You suddenly feel small, helpless, terrified, and you have no idea why. It can be triggered by a tone of voice, a smell, a certain time of year. Your body remembers what your mind has tried to forget. And let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention. Many people with C-PTSD struggle with their sense of self. Who are you when you've spent years adapting to survive? When you've molded yourself into whatever kept you safest? You might not even know what you like, what you want, what you believe. Because for so long those things didn't matter. Only survival mattered. You became whoever you needed to be to make it through another day. If this is hitting close to home, drop a comment below. Just say, I see myself in this. You don't have to share your story if you're not ready. But let's build a community of people who understand. Because isolation is one of the cruelest symptoms of C-PTSD. You need to know you're not alone. Now let's get crystal clear on something that confuses a lot of people, including many therapists who aren't specialized in trauma. What exactly is the difference between PTSD and C-PTSD? This distinction matters. It matters for diagnosis, for treatment, for your own understanding of what you're dealing with. So let's break it down. PTSD, standard post-traumatic stress disorder, typically develops after a single traumatic event or a series of similar events. A car crash, a natural disaster, a violent assault, one deployment to a war zone. The trauma has a clear beginning and end. You can point to it and say, that's when my life changed. The core symptoms include intrusive memories, nightmares, flashbacks to that specific event. You avoid reminders of the trauma. You're hypervigilant, constantly on edge. Your nervous system is stuck in fight or flight. These symptoms are devastating, and they can last for years or even a lifetime without treatment. But C-PTSD is a different beast entirely. It's what happens when trauma becomes your environment. When there's no single event to point to, but rather a pattern of harm that lasted months or years. Childhood neglect or abuse from caregivers. Being in a long-term abusive relationship. Being held captive. Living under the control of a narcissistic parent who systematically destroyed your sense of self. Growing up in a household with addiction where chaos was the only constant. With C-PTSD, you have all the symptoms of regular PTSD, but they're compounded by 3 additional clusters of symptoms that fundamentally alter who you are. First, severe problems with emotional regulation. We're not talking about being moody. We're talking about emotions that feel like tidal waves. Rage that erupts out of nowhere. Sadness so deep it feels like drowning. Or the opposite, feeling absolutely nothing, being numb and empty for days or weeks. Second, a deeply negative self-concept that's resistant to change. This goes beyond low self-esteem. It's a core belief that you are worthless, that you deserved what happened, that you're permanently damaged. This belief was often directly programmed by your abuser. They told you that you were nothing and your developing brain believed them. Even years later, even with evidence to the contrary, this belief persists. Third, severe and persistent difficulties in relationships. Not just struggling with intimacy, but a fundamental disruption in your ability to connect with others. You might avoid relationships entirely, convinced you're better off alone. Or you might find yourself repeatedly drawn to people who hurt you because that's what feels familiar. You might not know how to set boundaries, or you might build walls so high that no one can reach you. Here's the crucial point. PTSD says something terrible happened to you. C-PTSD says something terrible happened to you over and over again, during critical periods of your development, and it changed the architecture of your personality. PTSD is about recovering from an event. C-PTSD is about reconstructing a self that never got to fully form in the first place. Think of it this way. PTSD is like a building that was damaged by an earthquake. The structure was solid, then trauma hit, and now there's damage to repair. C-PTSD is like trying to build a stable building on a foundation that was never solid to begin with. The trauma happened while you were still under construction. So recovery isn't just about repairing damage. It's about going back and building the foundation you never got. This is why people with C-PTSD often feel like healing takes so much longer. It's not because you're weak or not trying hard enough. It's because the work is fundamentally more complex. You're not just processing traumatic memories. You're learning basic things that others absorb naturally. Like how to regulate your emotions, how to trust your own perceptions, how to believe you deserve good things, how to exist in the world without constant fear. So why is complex PTSD so incredibly difficult to heal from? Why can't you just work through it and move on? This is where understanding the science becomes crucial, because it validates your experience. It proves that this isn't in your head and it's not your fault. Let's talk about your brain. When you experience prolonged trauma, especially during childhood, it literally changes your brain structure. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, becomes hyperactive. It's constantly scanning for danger, finding threats even where none exist. Meanwhile, the hippocampus, which processes memories and puts them in context, actually shrinks. This is why traumatic memories feel so vivid and present, even years later. Your brain can't properly file them away as past events. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation, also shows altered activity in people with C-PTSD. It's like the brake system on your emotions doesn't work properly. When you get triggered, you can't just talk yourself down or think your way out of it. Your rational brain goes offline and your survival brain takes over completely. Then there's your nervous system. Normally, your nervous system moves between states. Active when you need to be, calm when it's safe to rest. But with C-PTSD, your nervous system gets stuck. Some people are stuck in hyperarousal, constantly anxious, unable to relax, always waiting for the next attack. Others are stuck in hypoarousal, feeling numb, disconnected, going through life in a fog. Many people swing between these extremes, never finding that middle ground where you feel both alert and safe. Here's something most people don't realize. Traditional talk therapy, the kind where you sit on a couch and discuss your feelings, often doesn't work for C-PTSD. In fact, it can sometimes make things worse. Why? Because C-PTSD isn't primarily a thinking problem. It's a nervous system problem. It's stored in your body, not just your mind. You can understand your trauma intellectually, know exactly why you react the way you do, and still be completely unable to change it. That's not weakness. That's biology. There's also the issue of attachment. If your trauma came from the very people who were supposed to keep you safe, usually parents or caregivers, it creates what psychologists call disorganized attachment. Your brain learned that the source of your safety is also the source of your danger. This creates an impossible bind. You need people to survive, but people are dangerous. So you're drawn to relationships but terrified of them simultaneously. This pattern repeats in adult relationships, often unconsciously, until you address the root attachment wound. And let's address something painful but important. Many people with C-PTSD were gaslit throughout their trauma. Told that what was happening wasn't happening. That they were too sensitive. That they were making things up. This systematic denial of reality does something insidious. It makes you doubt your own perceptions, your own memories, your own feelings. So even in therapy, even when you're trying to heal, there's this voice saying maybe I'm just overreacting, maybe it wasn't that bad, maybe I'm the problem. This self-doubt becomes another layer of trauma to work through. The chronic nature of the trauma also means you likely never developed healthy coping mechanisms. Most people learn emotional regulation from caregivers who model it. But if your caregivers were the source of trauma, you never got those lessons. Instead, you develop survival strategies. Dissociation, people-pleasing, perfectionism, self-harm, substance abuse. These strategies kept you alive, but they don't serve you in recovery. And unlearning them while simultaneously learning new skills is exhausting work. Here's the hardest truth. Healing from C-PTSD isn't linear. It's not like you do the work and steadily improve. You'll have breakthroughs followed by setbacks. Good days followed by weeks where you feel like you're back at square one. This isn't failure. This is the nature of complex trauma recovery. Your nervous system needs time to recalibrate. Your brain needs time to build new neural pathways. Your body needs time to release decades of stored survival energy. But here's what I need you to hear. Difficult doesn't mean impossible. Complex doesn't mean hopeless. And the fact that healing is hard doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're dealing with something real, something significant, something that deserves proper treatment and compassionate support. So let's talk about hope. Let's talk about what actually works when it comes to treating and healing from complex PTSD. Because despite everything we've discussed, recovery is absolutely possible. It takes time, it takes the right approaches, and it takes support, but people do heal. You can reclaim your life. First, you need trauma-informed therapy. Not just any therapist, but someone who specializes in complex trauma and understands the nervous system. The most effective approaches include EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. This therapy helps your brain reprocess traumatic memories so they no longer hold the same emotional charge. Then there's trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, which addresses both the thoughts and behaviors that develop from your trauma. Internal family systems therapy can be powerful for C-PTSD because it works with the different parts of yourself that develop to survive. Somatic therapy is crucial. This is body-based therapy that works directly with your nervous system. Because remember, your trauma lives in your body, not just your mind. Techniques like somatic experiencing help you release stored trauma energy and teach your body that it's safe to relax. Sensorimotor psychotherapy combines talk therapy with body awareness. These approaches recognize that you can't think your way out of C-PTSD. You have to feel your way through it safely and gradually. Let's talk about nervous system regulation. This is foundational work. Before you can process trauma, you need to learn how to regulate your emotional states. This includes learning to identify when you're getting dysregulated and having tools to bring yourself back to center. Breathing techniques, but not just any breathing, specific patterns that activate your parasympathetic nervous system. Grounding techniques that bring you back to the present moment when you're caught in a flashback. Progressive muscle relaxation. Cold water on your face. These aren't just relaxation tips. They're neurobiological interventions that directly impact your autonomic nervous system. Building a sense of safety is paramount. After years of danger, your system doesn't know what safety feels like. You have to teach it. This might mean creating a physical environment that feels secure. It means building relationships with people who are consistent and trustworthy. It means establishing routines and boundaries. Safety isn't just about the absence of danger. It's an active feeling of being protected, held, and allowed to exist without constant vigilance. Reconnecting with your body is essential. Many people with C-PTSD have spent years disconnected from their physical selves because that's where the pain lives. But healing requires coming back home to your body. Gentle yoga designed for trauma survivors can help. Dance or movement therapy. Massage from a trauma-informed practitioner. The goal isn't exercise. The goal is re-establishing a compassionate relationship with your physical self. You'll need to work on building distress tolerance skills. These are techniques that help you sit with uncomfortable emotions without resorting to old coping mechanisms. Dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, offers excellent skills for this. You learn that emotions, even intense ones, have a beginning, middle, and end. They peak and then they pass. You learn that you can survive discomfort without it destroying you. Addressing the attachment wounds is deep work. This often happens in long-term therapy where the relationship with your therapist becomes a healing experience in itself. You learn, probably for the first time, what it feels like to be seen, heard, and valued by someone in a position of authority without being harmed. This corrective emotional experience can rewire your attachment patterns. Medication can be helpful for some people. Antidepressants might ease the depression and anxiety that often accompany C-PTSD. Medications that help with sleep can be important because quality sleep is essential for nervous system healing. But medication alone isn't enough. It can take the edge off symptoms so you can do the therapeutic work, but it doesn't resolve the underlying trauma. Building a support system is vital. This might be support groups for trauma survivors. It might be online communities where people understand what you're going through. It might be carefully chosen friends or family members who are willing to learn about C-PTSD and support you through the ups and downs. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. You need people who get it. And here's something powerful. Many people with C-PTSD eventually find meaning in their pain. Not that the trauma was okay or happened for a reason, but that having survived it, having learned from it, they can use that knowledge to help others. Some become therapists, advocates, or peer supporters. This isn't necessary for healing, but for many, it becomes part of their recovery journey. The timeline for healing varies dramatically. Some people start feeling significantly better after a year of intensive therapy. For others, it might take 5 years or more. There's no standard timeline, and comparing yourself to others will only cause frustration. Your trauma is unique. Your healing will be too. Here's what recovery looks like. It's not about erasing the past or pretending it didn't happen. It's about the past no longer controlling your present. It's having difficult days but knowing they'll pass. It's being triggered but being able to bring yourself back relatively quickly. It's forming relationships that feel safe and reciprocal. It's recognizing your worth not intellectually but feeling it in your bones. It's making choices based on what you want, not just what keeps you safe. It's living, not just surviving. You deserve healing. You deserve peace. You deserve to live a life that isn't defined by what happened to you. The road is long, but you don't have to walk it alone. If this video resonated with you, if you see yourself in this story, take the first step. Reach out to a trauma-informed therapist. Join a support group. Tell someone you trust. Your healing matters. You matter. And if you found this valuable, hit that like button and subscribe so we can continue having these important conversations. Drop a comment telling me what topic you want covered next. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Together, we're breaking the silence around complex trauma. Together, we're creating a community of people who refuse to let their past define their future. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this hard work. You're stronger than you know.